Hello, everyone. This is Yuri. Today is Sunday, March 6th, and today we are continuing conversation we started last week, how to communicate or how many women rather communicate differently. Last week we started conversation based on the book that was written by John Gray. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Fascinating conversation, a lot of information to unpack, and we're going to continue this conversation. But before we do, you know that I love connecting with people from all over the world, and this one thing that this YouTube channel allowed me to do is to meet and connect with people from all over the world. And today I have a guest from United Kingdom, and I want everybody to meet her and interact with her. And I'm looking forward to connecting with her as well. So with that, I'm going to bring her on first. The plan for today, I'm going to have a conversation with her, and then we're going to go through part two of the book that I mentioned, and we're going to dive deeper into more concepts from the book. And of course, in order for this to be a fruitful conversation, please contribute. Please comment. Leave your questions, leave your thoughts, and we're going to have a conversation that's not just going to be me talking the entire time. All right. So, how men and women communicate differently? That's going to be part two of the conversation today. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell so you get notification for all the future videos. And before I bring my guest, let's see who we have here today. We have Dia in the house. Shout out to Dia. Shout out to Heather. My dear members are here. We have Latanya Ramirez. Thank you for being here. We have Becky in the house. Hello. We have Joanna. Your birthday is coming up. Shout out to you. Also a member. And looks like we have Deborah Duncan. So super excited to see all of you here. Thank you for joining live. With that being said, let me go ahead and bring my special guest. Hello, Olga. How are you?
Hi Yuri, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, but I can't see my picture there, but it's okay. Can you see me as well?
Yeah, I can see you. You can see your picture in there?
Oh yeah, I can see it now. Yeah. Um,
Okay. How are you?
all right, thanks.
So, where are you at in the world? Tell everybody.
I'm in the United Kingdom in the northwest of England. I live here, but I'm from St. Petersburg, Russia. I'm a
Very
little
nice.
bit worried about that people won't be able to understand me because I've got a Russian accent and I'm also from the UK as well. So if people don't understand me or you don't, so you can ask me again and I'll try to say it again.
I can understand you perfectly.
Okay.
So, I think we're good. So, tell me first how you came across the channel and what made you interested in the channel content.
Well, YouTube recommended your channel to me, and it's quite a universal topic. I think the relationship between men and women, even though you're talking about Russian men in particular, but I
Mhm.
think that a lot of things that you talk about apply to a lot of men, really, in general. So, because I always strive to improve my relationship, so I thought that was interesting. That's why I found your channel very interesting and fascinating.
Yeah, I'm very glad to hear that. So, how things going over there in Europe, first of all, and how's your family and how you doing?
We're doing all right, getting by. We're just a normal family. I have 3 children. There's quite a big gap between them. My oldest daughter is 21 years old, and she's already moved out. She's finished university. She lives in a different town from us. So she's independent now. My son is 16 years old, and my youngest daughter is 10.
All the teenagers.
Two, one teenager, and one is not a teenager. Yes, still 10 years old.
Yeah, getting there, right?
Yeah.
That's great. So I know you watched the last week's show, and I think you were very interested in some of the concepts that we discussed. Was anything stood out in particular, or anything that you like were interested in from the
Well,
last
first
week's
of all,
show?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to say thank you to you, Yuri, for introducing this book to me. Uh, because, well, I've heard about this book before. I think I watched an Oprah show and she had John Gray as a guest a few years ago, but I think I watched it only briefly and I never really looked into it after that. But what I really liked about his book is like as if he got into the mind of men and women and just described how we behave or how we respond in details so we could understand each other so much better. I think for me, what resonated with me the most was the fact that men retrieve when men are under stress, they retrieve into their cave.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't think like in the beginning of my relationship, I've been with my husband for 15 years now. This is not my first relationship. Like I don't know, you can ask me about that before, but this is not my first relationship. And
Uh-huh.
um, what was I saying? I used to really take it personally when he used to retrieve into his cave because to me it looked like he's abandoning me at the time when I needed him the most. So
Yeah.
in the beginning of my relationship, I was feeling really, really insecure about this, and it felt like my world is crashing. Like, oh, that's it, he's leaving me. I wasn't thinking rationally that he needs his time or that I should just leave him. But I think also it's because maybe my previous relationship affected that because, like, my ex-husband left me twice before.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other aspects as well.
Sure.
Um, but it made me think and understand how men behave more uh, better. So if I knew that fact before, I probably would have just left him to it and just let him get on with it. Instead, I used to just do a classical woman thing. I used to chase him. I used to want him to talk to me. Just
Right.
really, really being emotional and doing everything wrong. I think I was doing everything wrong.
So what about now? Like, given that you just gotten that knowledge, how did it change your opinion and your outlook on this?
Well, I think understanding human behavior and understanding the differences, it does help. Also, the problem for me is trying to apply this theoretical knowledge when at the moment when I need to apply it. So I need to practice this at the moment now.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, or like the period, because we've been together for 15 years now, and I know in my heart that he's not going to leave me. Because my worry was that when he's retrieving into his cave, that means he's going to leave me. Like it's the end of the world. But now I know he just needs his time, his space. So
Yeah.
especially this, I wish I read this book before, like I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago. you know.
I think that these things are very useful. I've made a remark last week that it should be part of a college program. It should be part of just general education for young people because I see so much value in it. Because people don't teach us communication like that. They teach us math and English and other things, but these basics of human interaction, well, I guess these are not basics because quite frankly, I wasn't aware of them either, right? So these are more intricate kind of nuances that a lot of people don't get to learn, and I think they must.
Yeah, it should be. But do you not think that when you are taught it as a theory and before you deal with it, it's not the same. You have to be in that situation to really resonate with this. Do you not think? I don't know. I don't think if I was taught it beforehand, I would probably like think, all right, okay, that's the way it is. But probably I'll put that away and forget all about it. But once I actually have to deal deal with things like that in life, this is when I really have to like withdraw all that knowledge and apply it into practice.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I believe it depends how it's taught, because if it's
Uh,
just kind of brushing off like, hey, this is it, like, just a very quick overview, maybe it doesn't stick. But if it taught as an important part of human awareness in human relationships, and in a significant amount of time spent on it, I think it could have a different effect even if you haven't had that situation, right? And beyond that, I also think I agree with you that theory is different from practice. You got to be able to put it in practice, because ultimately, until you do, it's hard to understand it. But, I think that having that information is better than not having it. It's
Yeah,
like
you're
you're
right.
learning math. You
Yeah,
don't always use math, but you know how to use math if you need to. When you come
yeah,
to the
you're right.
store,
Yeah,
you know how
yeah.
to count, right? Even though you might not like math or you don't care for it. So I think it's kind of a similar thing here. You might not necessarily ever need to use it, although I think that if you get in a relationship, you do. But you'll be glad that you have this knowledge when you really do need it.
Yeah, you're right. So when it's like, maybe it's going to be now, if we're taught it from the early age, maybe it's going to be in our subconscious then, and we'll see it as normal. Yeah. But whether
Yeah,
if
and
we're
and I
not
don't,
taught it at all,
I'm not suggesting that it should be just this concept alone. I think these interesting human interaction concepts should be engraved in education process. So whether it's just, class on relationships or class on human communication as a whole, right? This could be engraved in bigger picture, but I think it seems as if we're missing very important piece of communication that people would really need to know, because I felt very similarly to how you felt. Like I
mm,
haven't necessarily read any information that put it in that form, that explains it in that way and breaks it down so easily for me to really grasp these concepts. Because I had flashbacks from my previous relationships to where I fought with my partner at the time, and I'm like, well, if I knew this, it would make a lot easier for me to navigate that relationship as well. And both of us didn't know that. I'm sure that she did not know that either. So it's like, you know we were trying to figure out on your own, and sometimes that knowledge could, I feel like, make all the difference in the world.
yeah, I agree with you. So, but when it's written down, it just sounds so simple. And when you were talking about this, I was thinking, how could I not think about this myself? But it just sounds so obvious, isn't it, that men would probably interpret things differently from women, and especially when you were talking about the dictionary, how women understand words, well, phrases, and how men, what men actually mean by that, and the other way around. That just like, it was like a wow revelation, I don't know why I lived for so many years and it never occurred to me. So it's just like, I'm glad that I came across this book now. So,
Yes, yes,
and I'm a very,
100%.
like, in life, I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very hot tempered, and I'm not one of those women who are quite wise, and like one of those women who uh, just like being very wise and calm for their men. I'm very like I don't want to say that about myself, but to be honest, like, if I'm honest, I'm very hot tempered and just like blow up straight away. But after a while, I calm down and I really regret what I've done. But it's already done, which is like, you can't redo it. Which
Hmm.
is so I'm constantly learning. Like, I've always strived to be a wiser person, but I don't succeed, unfortunately. I'm just fail all the time. But I want
Well,
to
I
be a better
think,
person in the relationship.
yeah, listen, I think awareness is the first step. And if you're aware of some of these things, you can work on these things. And actually, part of the conversation today would be about the emotions that women go through, and I think it's a really cool knowledge to have again and see it from the doctor's perspective, because this guy, John Gray, he has, back in the day at least, he had his own practice. He was psychologist, I believe. So he describes a lot of the experiences he've had with couples, right?
Hmm.
And with how he was able to help people, real people. So it's cool to see it from that perspective, that it's not just theory, it's actual things that he was able to implement during his workshops and seminars, and then people were able to actually apply these things and improve their relationships.
Well, I'm always hoping that I'm going to learn, and I never give up on that. But it just like seem to be, I understand so often. I understand all the theory and all the practice, and when things are calm, I'm thinking, oh, I should have done it a different way. But for me, the main problem is just applying it at the right moment when I really need to apply it. So that's what I need to practice really. But at least
Absolutely,
if I've got
100%.
the knowledge, then hopefully I will be able to like succeed. I don't know. We'll see.
Absolutely. I think you will. You have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, but my YouTube channel is all about hiking and running. I actually started running because after having my third child, I had postnatal depression, and
Hmm.
I was on antidepressants for 3 years. And then I thought to myself that I have to get off them at some point. And every time I was trying to get off antidepressants, I was relapsing back. And I wanted to try something completely radical, something different. And I thought, right, I need to do something that I've never done before. And I've never actually, before that, I had never in my life run before. So I never did anything physical. And I decided to start running. So that physical exercise sort of like helped me push out the mental problems out of my head. So that's how I
Hmm.
started running. And the YouTube channel I've got is just about the trail running and fell running and hiking. But
Okay.
it's not. It's just like my hobby. That's something I do that I enjoy doing.
Yeah. What is the name of the channel?
Olga's British Fells. Fells. I don't know if they use that word in America. So it's a very specific word for British landscape. It's like hills, but with a certain vegetation. I think it's you only find fells in the Norway and Norway, Scotland, and the north of England. So it's like trails. I think you call them trails, but trails are more. There's a path on a trail. When we run this really really wild nature, there's not specific path. You just run through marsh. You run through the bog. Through there's no path there, and it's quite a hilly landscape. It's
Yeah.
like you've
Yeah.
been
No.
being the one with nature and doing physical exercise. So
Yeah.
it's
Hundred
quite, I
percent.
don't know, it's quite a specific, particular thing, quite a geeky thing I do, but it helps me.
Yeah. I've never no. I never knew that fells. So it's FELLS. I
Yeah,
found you.
yeah, fells, yeah.
I don't know if you
I
can see
think
it,
in
but
America you have trails, but trails are a little bit more civilized. Yeah, that's my last video. This is
I
my
can't
last
get it
race.
in focus.
This is my last race I've done. It was yesterday, actually.
So I'm gonna put it in here.
No, it's okay. I've not done my channel like to be popular or anything. I'm just doing it because I like this is my hobby and I just share it with people who are doing it with me.
Oh, it's all Gus. My
Yeah,
bad.
all this British fells. Yeah.
So hold on. There has to be oh, I can't. Once I did a comment, I can't redo it. That's pretty cool. No, I've seen one of your videos where you went to a countryside or something, and you
Oh,
were
was it
given a
when we
tour.
went to the mountains? Like, well, they're not very high mountains. We have the area in England, in the north of England, called the Lake District, where all the mountains are. But our mountains are not very high, not like mountains in America, but they're still
Hmm.
mountains. And we just hike. With my family, I do a lot of hiking. It's only
That's pretty
about
cool.
like 1 hour drive from where we live, so it's not that far.
That's pretty cool. I agree with you 100%. There is something about physical activity that helps the mind, and the extent of it, I don't think we fully understand, but there's a relief. And like from my perspective, every time that I exercise, I feel better. That there is
Yeah,
just, there is just a positive energy that's being created. The body and mind need to be stimulated, and the body must be moving. You know,
yeah. To
and I
me it
think
pushes out quite often, it pushes out all my mental problems. So when I go for a run, I just concentrate, I just focus on the physical, and then sometimes there's a lot of time to think about things while you're running. So I think about like, oh, how am I going to solve this, how am I going to solve that. So because there's so much time during the
Yeah.
run, so it just like naturally sorts everything out. So this is my way of sorting problems out. I don't know, everybody's got their own ways. I also find another good way is reading books. I like reading books, that helps as well. You know,
Yeah.
fiction, not self-help books, but fiction. It's like when you go to a different world, and you know, but everybody's different, so that works for me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mm.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate the conversation. I hope you stick around for, for today's live show and participate. Definitely comment and let me know your thoughts on what we're going to discuss today, okay?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It was nice to see you and talk to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll connect again. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. Always great and amazing to connect with this community. And with that being said, we're going to jump into today's conversation. Today's conversation revolving around the second part of the book, why men and women communicate differently. So, as I mentioned, this is a book review by John Gray. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. What are we going to hold on one moment? Let me see. Oh, we need to do actual part one review first. So, last week, we talked about differences between men and women. We talked about Mr. Fix It All versus Home Improvement Committee. We talked about men go to their caves and women talk, something that Olga mentioned. We talked about men need to feel needed and women need to feel cherished. And by the way, the community confirmed last week that women do need to feel cherished. So I got the confirmation from the ladies. And translation of what men communicate to women. So if you want to see any and all of this information, if you did not get the chance to watch last week's live show, please get back and check it out. It is on my YouTube channel, and you have chapters so you can jump from topic to topic. When you go in the description video, you'll be able to see timestamps corresponding to a particular topic of discussion. And so you can jump to a particular topic of your interest. But today we're jumping into part two. So, what every woman should know about man. And I did a little insert from the book directly. So, if a man does not have the opportunity to pull away, he never gets a chance to feel his strong desire to be close. It is essential for women to understand that if they insist on continuous intimacy or run after their intimate male partner, when he pulls away, then he will almost always be trying to escape and distance himself. He will never get a chance to feel his own passionate longing for love. And the example, I wanted to give a different example and go a slightly different route because I think the easiest example is okay, what's going to happen if man just simply, if you're in a committed relationship, let's say, and you having a conversation and then man just wants to withdraw into his cave and not talk. I would say it's a little bit easier example, right? Because, well, those things happen. You can't fully avoid it. What I was thinking about a dating example when you are dating a man, you're not in a committed relationship yet. You been intimate with the man and then man withdraws, man just doesn't talk, man disappears, seems distant. What is the solution there, or is there a solution in that type of situation? And I think it applies the similar way. If man withdraws, allow him his time to be away, because at the end of the day you can't make him be involved in this relationship in the dating process. And if you stress out about it to where you're going to try to force him to be in it by having this kind of very pointed conversation, right? um, then I don't think that's the best strategy. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, it's just my opinion, but it works the same way for men. If I'm talking with a woman and let's say we went on a couple of dates, and I'm trying to communicate with her, but she's not communicating back to me. I can't make her communicate back to me. You know, I have to either give it time, or sometimes there's no match. Sometimes people simply not interested. So I think when we think of it in context of dating versus committed relationship, that could be quite different. Let me know what you think about it in a comment. What do you think that you should do in a context of dating? How would you handle a situation where a person that you're dating becomes distant, whether before intimacy or after intimacy? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't make a difference whether or not you've been intimate. So let me know in the comments. All right. I would like to hear your opinion. Um, let's see. Yeah, definitely keep those comments coming. You really help women understand because you be real. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Uh, Olga was great to see you in the video. Definitely check out your channel. Yes, shout out to Olga once again for joining. Let me know in your comment what do you think about this concept of distancing yourself. Specifically, I guess let's talk about it from a perspective of man. When man distance himself in the relationship, what do you think? Should woman try to reach him? Should woman try to talk him into being present? And the key question, does it make a difference if you're dating or if you are in a committed relationship? That's what I would like to know. All right. Let's see. So this is the I think this was the part. This was the part that I started. When a man loves a woman periodically, he needs to pull away before he can get close. It's counterintuitive, but that's what's really happening. That's what's really happening. I think we still need to be able to cover one more point here. So what every woman should know about man. Let's look at that. If understood, this male intimacy cycle enriches a relationship, but because it is misunderstood, it creates unnecessary problems. Let's explore an example. So let's look at the particular example. Maggie was distressed, anxious, and confused. She and her boyfriend Jeff had been dating for 6 months. Everything had been so romantic. Then, without any apparent reason, he began to distance himself emotionally. Maggie could not understand why he had suddenly pulled away. She told me one minute he was so attentive, and then the next he didn't even want to talk to me. I have tried everything to get him back, but it only seems to make matters worse. He seemed too distant. I don't know what I did wrong. Am I so awful? When Jeff pulled away, Maggie took it personally. This is a common reaction. She thought she had done something wrong and blamed herself. She wanted to make things right again. But the more she tried and get close to Jeff, the more he pulled away. After talking, After taking my seminar, Maggie was so relieved. Her anxiety and confusion immediately disappeared. Most important, she stopped blaming herself. She realized that when Jeff pulled away, it was not her fault. In addition, she learned why he was pulling away and how gracefully to deal with it. Months later, at another seminar, Jeff thanked me for what Maggie had learned. He told me they were now engaged to be married. Maggie had discovered a secret that few women know about men. Maggie realized that when she was trying to get close while Jeff was trying to pull away, she was actually preventing him from stretching his full distance and then springing back. By running after him, she was preventing him from ever feeling that he needed her and wanted to be with her. She realized that she had done this in every relationship. Unknowingly, Unknowingly, she had obstructed an important cycle. By trying to maintain intimacy, she had prevented it. So, the interesting thing, it's kind of counterintuitive when you think about this, right? Because a natural reaction is to be able to pull the man closer to you when you feel like he's going away. But what we're learning here is that you need to be able to give him the opportunity to be on his own. A man pulling back after an intimate time with his partner is usually someone with intimacy issues. The proximity is emotionally threatening. Daphne said is a red flag. Joanna said if someone pulls back or goes silent during dating, it's just pull away too. If it's a relationship, I would ask him questions and see if he needs time away or there is a personal problem in his life. Uh, Olga said, don't worry about my geeky Iranian channel. Well, you know, this community is going to check out your channel. I mirror back my date's behavior. It's like a game of ping pong. And if he goes quiet, I go quiet too. If it becomes prolonged, I will reach out to clarify the situation. That's not a bad strategy. Mirroring. I kind of like that. When a man withdraws, I look at what happened before that. If we have been having lots of intimacy, there is stress, etc., I know he will take an emotional sabbatical. I give him space, he comes back. I just wish we knew these differences between men and women beforehand. I think communication is very important, but it's not always easy to do it properly when you are emotionally charged. Absolutely. I think this is when it's the hardest. This is when it's really difficult when things are emotionally charged because people don't think clearly usually in those situations. Why men pull away? So let's take a look at that because that's going to be another important one. Why men pull away? Men begin to feel their need for autonomy and independence after they have felt their need for intimacy. Let me repeat this. Ladies, this is important. Men begin to feel their need for autonomy and independence after they have felt their need for intimacy. Automatically, when he begins to pull away, she begins to panic. What she doesn't realize is that when he pulls away and fulfills his need for autonomy, then suddenly he will want to be intimate again. A man automatically alternates between needing intimacy and autonomy. Another big point. A man automatically alternates between needing intimacy and autonomy. So if you don't give man his autonomy, this is going to come back. At some point, it's going to show up in the relationship because there's no way that I'm, as a man, would want to be around my woman 24/7. This stems from previous conversations that we've had. Man wants to be his own person, and women do too. But specifically, what we're learning about man is that men want to have this autonomy. All right, we can't be with our woman 24/7. We need to be by ourselves. We need to get our thoughts straight. We need to be able to spend time alone, and this is not something that optional. According to what I'm gathering from this is mandatory for men. And if women understand that, hopefully women can be more sensible and more understanding about giving space, intentional space and time for a man to be on his own or definitely give him autonomy. Let's see if there's something else we can draw from here. For example, in the beginning of his relationship, Jeff was strong and full of desires. His rubber band was fully stretched. He wanted to impress her, fulfill her, please her, and get close to her. As he succeeded, she also wanted to get close. As she opened her heart to him, he got closer and closer. When they achieved intimacy, he felt wonderful. But after a brief period, a change took place. Imagine what happens to the rubber band. The rubber band becomes limp. Anyway, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. It's a funny word to use in the context of intimacy. Things do become limp sometimes. um, its power and stretch are gone. There is no longer any movement. There is exactly what happens to a man's desire to get close after intimacy has been achieved. Even though this closeness is fulfilling to a man, he will inevitably begin to go through an inner shift. He will begin to feel the urge to pull away. Having temporarily fulfilled his hunger for intimacy, he now feels his hunger to be independent, to be on his own. Enough of this needing another person. He may feel he has become too dependent or may not know why he feels a need to pull away. Listen, so this is so interesting to me because what this says is that man kind of wired that way. Man wired to pull away specifically after intimacy once that need is fulfilled. Now, if this holds even partial truth, then that is very significant because at that point, as a woman, allow him to pull away, allow him to be on his own, allow him to get his autonomy and then come back to you. So give him that time. How women misinterpret men. Let's take a look at that one. That sounds very interesting as well. Without an understanding of how men are like rubber bands, it is very easy for women to misinterpret a man's reactions. A common confusion arises when she says, "Let's talk," and immediately he emotionally distances himself. Not today. Thank you, honey. I don't want to talk right now. Do you want my commentary? Whether or not you'll get him anyway. Right when she wants to open up and get closer, he wants to pull away. Commonly, I hear the complaint every time I want to talk, he pulls away. I feel like he doesn't care about me. She mistakenly concludes that he doesn't ever want to talk to her. This rubber band analogy explains how a man may care very much about his partner but suddenly pull away. When he pulls away, it is not because he does not want to talk. Instead, he needs some time alone, time to be with himself when he is not responsible for anyone else. It is a time for him to take care of himself. When he returns, then he is available to talk. To a certain extent, a man loses himself through connecting with his partner. That's a big point. To a certain extent, a man loses himself through connecting with his partner. If that's the case, even if we lose a part of ourselves, then it only makes sense for us to regain this part of ourselves by being on our own and being able to come back in that place of self identity. By feeling her needs, problems, wants, and emotions, he may lose touch with his own sense of self. Pulling away allows him to reestablish his personal boundaries and fulfill his need to feel autonomous. All right, I think this is a good chunk of information here. Uh, how would I explain this, or what examples? I think that if you don't allow man to have his sense of self as a woman, I think you're going to end up in a situation where this man who constantly trying to meet your needs will become undesirable to you. So this is a different way of looking at it. This is We just talked about how men internalize these things as a rubber band and being able to withdraw and be on his own. But from a woman's perspective, if you continue to have his attention the entire time and he's becoming a person who is there to suit your needs and forgets his own peace of mind, I suppose, or place where he can reflect to be himself, then I would argue that he will become unattractive to you after all, because he's going to lose his identity. And the reason I believe that you were attracted to him, there is something about him, about this man, how he behaves, how he acts, his values, um, you know, all these different things that made you like this man. And if he doesn't have a chance or opportunity to reflect on those things, or to continue to be on his own, I can see how he can start losing these things. Daphne said, everyone needs time alone. Otherwise, it's not a relationship. It's codependency. It's important for both men and women to feel their own sense of identity outside of a relationship. Well said. Well said. Hello, Jamie. Thank you for being here. And now a member in the house. We appreciate you. Let's continue. Let's continue on. Keep those comments coming. How to get a man to talk. Now, this should be interesting. Let's take a look at that. How to get a man to talk. When a woman wants to talk or feel the need to get close, she should do the talking and not expect a man to initiate the conversation. To initiate a conversation, she needs to be the first to begin sharing, even if her partner has little to say. As she appreciates him for listening, gradually he will have more to say. A man can be very open to having a conversation with a woman, but at first have nothing to say. What women don't know about Martians, which is our man, is that they need to have a reason to talk. They don't talk just for the sake of sharing. It's funny because who did I have a conversation with the other day? I think, Joanna, I was talking to you and we had this interesting dialogue back and forth. And I've made a point to you during our conversation that men don't share things the same way that women do. When I get with my male friend, I don't just talk about my relationship. I don't vent, details about what's going on in my daily life. I don't do that. And it's interesting that he put it in this book because I literally just had this conversation. This is the first time I'm reading this. So this is not, that was not premeditated, or planned, pre-planned. So it's interesting for me to see this because he's saying they don't talk for the sake of sharing. There's normally some sort of reason, right? We talk because we want to get from point A to point B. In life, I'm talking in general. Man, the way we communicate. We want to be able to learn something. We want to be able to, you know, maybe have a conversation with friend and just we can still have a conversation, I guess what I'm saying, with our very best friend or two, but it's not conducted in a similar way that it's conducted by females. Females go into a lot more detail, and they I think they want to be able to get that information out, versus where men want to be able to a lot of information we hold inside, and we want to be able to go from point A to point B. This is how I see this communication differ. um So they don't talk just for the sake of sharing, but when a woman talks for a while, a man will start to open up and share how he relates to what she has shared. For example, if she talks about some of her difficulties during the day, he may share some of the difficulties of his day so that they can understand each other. If she talks about her feelings about the kids, he may then talk about his feelings about the kids. As she opens up and he doesn't feel blamed or pressured, then he gradually begins to open up. It takes time. It takes time for men to communicate in a similar way. Yeah, I remember that conversation. It was so interesting to hear how men communicate with each other. Thank you for that, because I was asking you 100%. Also, don't over talk just to talk. It's if it's dragging talk another time. When men have deeper conversations, it's usually general and solution focused or growth focused, and not so much emotionally relationship detail sharing. Yeah, I would agree with that. I just don't think that we do that. I generalize here, but just using how I would communicate with my friends, you know, it also makes a difference. Like, I can have a conversation just to kind of give a general information to my very good friend that I've known, that I trust. And I might say things like, you know, my girl and I, we are not doing too good right now. We're just going through a situation. And that's it. That would be the extent of what I'm going to say. Because for one thing, going into details, that seems so odd, even with my good friend. You know why? Because for one thing, it's my personal business. So I don't want more people into my relationship. I don't want, it's not a relationship committee. This is my relationship with my woman. But secondly, make me feel like I'm inept to figure things out if I'm going to share it with my male friends. What am I? I don't need nobody's help to fix my relationship. If I do, I better off going to psychologist, psychologist, right? To figure it out. I'd rather a professional help me rather than just talk to my friend. I think women approach it completely different. Women will have this in-depth conversation with their girlfriends, and they will tell them everything. And I think I understand more as to reason why, because women want to be heard and understood. I think the dilemma is, if you have a girlfriend who is then going to take that information and going to give grief to your man. And why I say that, because it actually happened before. It's funny because I can think of some of my friends in the past to where a one couple, had a conversation within a relationship, then girlfriend goes in and shares that information with her girlfriends, and then her girlfriend, one of her girlfriends, makes a remark to a boyfriend, a snarky remark like, so when are you going to put the ring on it? Or when are you going to get married? Or what's the holdup? That's the worst. That's the worst, because for one thing, I automatically know that you've been talking. You've been talking not just, you know, a little bit. You've been sharing intimate details of our relationship with your girlfriend. Secondly, who the hell is this person? Why your girlfriend is talking to me about my relationship? I don't need unsolicited advice. I surely don't need any smirky remark from another woman about my relationship. What is that? So why I say this is because, ladies, be very careful. If you value your man, be very careful what you share with your girlfriends and whether or not you trust your girlfriends. Because if that shit comes back to me, I'm not going to be fond of it. And guess what? Guess who I'm going to talk about this? The only person I can talk about this is my girlfriend. Because even if I check this other woman and say, like, hey, that's not of your business, I know that my girlfriend is talking. You understand? So there is a fine balance in how these things should be approached. So I'm trying to explain to you why men don't do that. Because, you know, based on experiences in my life, men just don't approach these things that way. If we have issues, a mature man, when mature man has issues in his relationships, hopefully that man has you know, um, enough common sense to address these things with his woman directly. It does not feel good and natural for us to just vent to our other males friends. We usually don't do that. We usually don't. That was a lot. That was a lot. Jamie said, women tell other women about issues to troubleshoot the problems, hoping they have a way to help. I understand that sometimes it could do more harm than good. I understand because I get the need. I really do. I think I get it more after this book because you want to be sharing and you want to be understood. Where is that balance though? How much you're going to share, what you're going to say, and who you're going to share it with? Do you trust that that person is not going to look at your boyfriend and like in a demanding way, or make smarky remarks to your boyfriend? Because if that's the case, that's going to come back to harm your relationship. If my friend goes to my man and shares what I tell her, she isn't my friend after all. But it's not the fact that she's going to go and share what you told her. It could be kind of like this innocent remark at dinner when you have it, or it can come out at picnic during the picnic at a park. Those things, like, not always pre-planned, and your friends have evil intentions. Sometimes it just happens where these things come up. Not they don't mean to hurt you. It's just human nature. Human learn things and human share things, right? So listen, understand the difference. Maybe this is going to help. Understand the difference between personal things in your relationships that should not be shared, and support that you would need from your friends. Because there are intimate things within your relationships that should not be shared with anyone. And if that comes back to your man in any way, shape, or form, even in the weird looks, because sometimes, again, intelligent man, you don't need to, even your friends don't need to say a whole lot. I can sense the energy. So if you give me that stinky eye, like, look at me like this, it doesn't matter how you look at me. You get the point. The energy transfers. I can feel the change of frequency between how you as my girlfriend friend perceiving me. I can feel that change. So if that's the case, even those wrong looks or bad energy, that's going to raise questions. That's going to raise red flags. Be very careful. All I'm saying to you is that if you appreciate your man and you want to keep this relationship, just think about those things what you want to share and who you want to share it with. I think, though, a man will reach out to a close friend to ask for advice for a particular sticky point in his love life. Am I right? I think man can. I'm not saying that man would not do that. I think man definitely could ask for advice. But asking for advice versus sharing intimate parts of your relationship are two different things. I can reach out to my friend and I can say, "Hey Mike, I'm going through this situation with this girl. Not quite sure how to approach it. Have you ever dealt with that before? Do you have anything for me?" That's different than me saying, you know, my girl and I, we went to the park. We wanted to play out our sexual fantasy. Then, we got seen in the park while we were getting busy, and she really got mad at me. She wouldn't text me. Do you understand the difference? One is just a piece of advice, right? Another one is this intricate story that goes into intimate details of your relationship, not one and the same. So men will, I think, seek the advice and they will seek guidance of people that they trust, but the communication is not going to be the same. I'm starting to think of even more issues with sharing intimate relationship details. Like, oftentimes, friends won't have the whole context, and both sides give advice based on one side. Yes. And another thing, too, remember that you think that people can keep secrets. when, when people say, promise me that you won't tell nobody, that don't mean nothing. That, you know why? And I know that a lot of you are going to disagree with me, which is fine. Maybe it means something, but people have flaws. People are imperfect. Sometimes they could be benefit for somebody else. For example, a prime example, if your girlfriend wants your man, have you thought about that? Do you think your girlfriend would tell you that she's attracted to your man? If she's attracted to your man and you sharing intimate details of your relationship, do you think that she's not going to bring it up to get him? Now, I'm not saying that every single girlfriend would. Of course, I would hope not. But there's going to be people who would 100%, so she can use that information against you. So information that you told her in confidence and in secret, she can, even though she promised you she's never going to share it with anybody, she can share it when it benefits her at the moment that is right. And some of you might think, well, that is no, that's not going to happen. Well, listen, if you don't think it's going to happen, it had happened already, and it continues to happen. And you can probably, not probably, you can find a lot of stories like that of people, of friends who betrayed their friends and who ended up dating that man. So this is just one example of when people say, "Oh, you don't tell nobody." People imperfect. People say things for different reasons. People can um, go against their word for different reasons. You got me all worked up over here. Oh my God. Also, your friend does not know who your man is. You do. Exactly. Exactly. I think you do need to think about how your friend will look at your man based on what you share too. 100%. It's not just about you feeling better as a person. There's another person in the picture. You're going to share something about him. Oh, he's farting during sex. Oh, guess what? Your girlfriend's going to say, "Oh, hey, farty. Hey, fart man." Extreme example, I know. Funny example, I know. But you get the point. There's going to be things that your man don't need to hear from your friends. They don't need to know that. They must not know that. You need to take your man to the doctor, check his stomach, talk to him about not doing that during intercourse. But your friends don't need to know that. But if a woman wants your man, she will twist anything you say to them. Yes. You think, people at the end of the day, pursuing their needs and their goals. I'm sorry to break it for you. It's not to demonize people. People are selfish, and people are always going to choose, you know, what benefits them over what benefits others. So, with that being said, there could be things that happen just because of that principle. They may say something even not because they're bad people, but because maybe it will benefit them. Good conversation. Let's continue on. Where were we? We talked about how to get men to talk, right? Did we start on it? Yes, we talked about that. Perfect. When a man won't talk, let's look at that. Whoa. Let me get the right view. When a man won't talk. Sandra and Larry have been married for 20 years. Sandra wanted a divorce and Larry wanted to make things work. She said, "How can he say he wants to stay married? He doesn't love me. He doesn't feel anything. He walks away when I need him to talk. He's cold and heartless. For 20 years, he has withheld his feelings. I am not willing to forgive him. I will not stay in this marriage. I am too tired of trying to get him to open up and share his feelings, to be vulnerable." Oh my God, that word again, vulnerable. Listen, do you want me to make a video, a separate video on vulnerability in man? Let me know in the comments. Please put it in the comments. If you want me to make another video why I think man should not be vulnerable or why vulnerability is a myth, put it in the comments. Hashtag vulnerability or hashtag vulnerability video. Please do. I'm going to tell you briefly because I am not advocating for men not being open, honest, and transparent. I advocate for that 100%. However, I just have a different perception of word vulnerability. Vulnerability to me, now, listen, if I'm going to make a video, I'm going to give you actually, let me look up the definition right now. I don't need to wait for the video. I'm going to look up definition of vulnerability right now. Okay. Vulnerability. That's how it's pronounced. Vulnerability, the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. Again, the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, even physically or emotionally. So let's just go with this definition. And I wanted to stop just to spend a little bit of time on this because it's important. Vulnerability. Do you really want your man to be vulnerable? Like, do you want your man to be open for emotional attacks or emotional harm in this instance? So, see, my argument is this. Even if you can't get your man to be vulnerable with you, man who is always going, and what is it? What is it actually going to mean? That means that, let's take it to extreme somewhat, but a vulnerable man is somebody who is going to open up to you and who's going to share his issues and who essentially is going to cry on your shoulder. That's what vulnerability is. That's what emotional openness, not just emotional openness, but this is what to me means being exposed. This is no more, I can't think of anything more that would describe of being exposed as a man as crying on woman's shoulder. That's probably as exposed as you can get as a man, right? So let's say that you get man to that point. Let's say that you get man who is crying on your shoulder because he wants to share with you his traumas, his shortcomings, his fears, all of that. What do you think is going to happen next? Okay, you got man to be vulnerable. What do you think is going to happen next? What do you think you're going to perceive this man as in your relationship? Well, I'm going to tell you my opinion, and maybe depending if people want to see a video, I will make a video eventually. I see only like 3 comments, or yeah, 3 comments for the video. There's 9 people watching. So I guess rest of you don't want to see the video. Not a good percentage. But my take on it is like, even if you get him there to where he's going to experience all these emotions, and he's going to share these emotions with you, I think at the end of the day, subconsciously, women, I'm not going to want to be around that man, because man supposed to lead, man supposed to solve problems, man supposed to be strong, man supposed to be protectors, man supposed to know how to, you know, how to make woman feel secure. Is it not the case? And I don't think you can have it both ways. I don't think, if we agree that that is indeed the case, I don't think you can have it both ways. I don't think you can have a strong, secure, um, self-confident, self-assured man who can provide protection, who can provide support at the same time as the man who's going to cry on your shoulder. That's why I think it's a myth. What is the definition? What is the definition? Daphne, you said check this definition out. Which one? I don't see it. Um anyway, if you send one, I'll look at it, but I don't see one that you're talking about. So anyway, that's my take on it. I do not believe that you can have it both ways. Let's see some comments. That was a trigger. Can you tell? I didn't even finish reading this. I had to stop because this word vulnerable has been thrown around in the West as a cool thing. Again, I want to make very clear. Men should be honest. Men should be transparent. Man should be able to communicate what he's going through. Man should be supportive. I don't believe that man, if we are going to define vulnerability as I defined it, which is as Google defined it, and a man who is going to just pour himself out and who is going to be emotionally vulnerable. I use that exact same word. If that is the case, I think it's a bad news. Let's see. Daphne, I don't see the definition that you're referring to, so I'm not sure um, where is it? What we are a team. I wouldn't avoid them because they're having tough time. It just means he needs to be boosted up. A good woman should understand her man is human. So, how much? I mean, to what extent you would be able to work with a man who is always vulnerable? I'm not suggesting that you should not be working as a team. I am saying that if you have a man on your hand who is constantly being vulnerable with you by sharing his problems, fears, shortcomings, all these things with you, my argument is that that man is going to lose the essence of what it is to be a man. Emotionally focused therapy, developed by Dr. Sue Johnson, is a highly effective couples therapy modality that focuses on helping clients learn to communicate the softer primary emotions. Would need to look into that. Would need to look into that. Let me screenshot this real quick. Man, I just blasted vulnerability. I just blasted it. Appreciate sharing that, Daphne. Becky said, man can be vulnerable and still be strong. I figure if he complains or gets emotional more than I do, then I worry. So listen, this is exactly my point. How do you, we say these things, right? So he can be vulnerable and still strong, but at the same time, we give we give a very subjective metric of what that is. Because Becky, based on what you're saying, is that if he complains or gets emotional more than I do, then I worry. How do you measure that? Like emotional in what case? Like, does he need to cry? Does he need to be able to talk more than you do? Does he need to be able to share something for 50 minutes? Like, it's a feeling that you're going to have, right? But for man, when you try to explain it as a man, that doesn't make a good sense to us, because that means that you're going to be the one to determine what vulnerability is. And if we about to have this conversation and put the actual metric on it to where men can understand it, we need to be able to identify it and solidify it more. Because I bet you some men would be willing to be vulnerable if they knew exactly what that meant without being penalized for their behavior by their woman. And I'm glad that you put that comment, because that comment is, I think, what a lot of people would say, but there's no way for it there's no way for men to grasp the meaning of it. Maybe I speak for myself. So, what it is exactly, at what point exactly we're going to know. All right, let's continue on. Jonah said, if a man needs to cry every now and then with me, that's fine with me, but I don't need him to open up about all of his worries and fears if he doesn't want to. So define what the essence of a man is, because if they are scared, I want to know so we can work together for a solution. I think from what I've seen, men let it out and then it's done. If they share what they are feeling, that is. As I mentioned, I don't think that man should not share how he feels. Sorry, oh, my battery is about to die. Hold on. That was almost cost me the live stream. I don't think that man should not share things with you. All right, that was not the point. What I'm saying is that when men share how they feel, and when they share their fears, and when they share their shortcomings, or when they share their incompetence, this could go wrong way, because it depends on how they do it. It's not depends on only what they share, but it depends on how they do it. That's number one, right? Number two, like, I just don't think that psychologically it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even on a subconscious level, if you have man who is scared and man who comes across who is scared, then that is you know, I don't think that that's a point at which, even subconsciously, in my opinion, women would be drawn to that man. So in a way, if you're a man and you're doing that, then I think you put yourself in danger of being able to maintain that relationship and keep that woman for a long run. Now, what's the solution? You share, and you choose carefully, you know, what you're going to share and how you're going to share it. And I think I think a lot of people will. I can see how this could be counterintuitive, because some of you may say, "Well, you should share everything. You should not hold anything back in the relationship." And I just disagree with that. I think there's got to be things that you need to work through yourself as a man. Your woman is not your therapist. All right? Your woman is not your therapist. You're not supposed to, in my opinion, you're not supposed to be telling all these things to your woman. You can have, I think actually have a therapist is a good idea, as a man and as a woman. And if you want to go to couples therapy because something is not working, by all means. Hopefully I answered it. I don't know if I did. Woo! I opened the can of worms, baby. With the vulnerability. That's right. That is right. Here makes a good point by being honest about a man staying a man. I think sometimes in this day and age, we are worried to agree with this because we are now conditioned to look at both sexes as equal. I think you have the wrong idea of vulnerability, or it hasn't been used properly in your environment. It means having the trust within the relationship or reveal their true feelings, whatever they may. Why they call it vulnerability then? That's my question. Call it trust, call it good communication, call it share your feelings. I just think that it seems to me that, like, the conversation on the West, the way it's structured in the West, I don't know how it is in Europe, Daphne, but the way it's structured in the West, they, like, from what I heard, women wanting men to be vulnerable. Vulnerable meaning that they want to be able to open up to them 100%, including not just honesty, but including the emotional part of it. That's the way I'm taking it. They want men to be 100% open and free and have this interaction with women. Um, and I just think it's a bad idea, depending on how it's communicated. I think it's a good idea to talk about the trust and to talk about their experience, the other words, they feeling in the relationship and what they're going through. But I think it's a bad idea to be crying on your woman's shoulder and talk about everything under the sun that you're experiencing. That's what the therapist is for. Sometimes men have a good reason to be scared I won't love them less or respect them less for sharing with me. Crying is human, not female or male. Your woman can be your therapist, and so can your man. Listen, that is, I would say I disagree, because to an extent, I think you should share. I think you should communicate. And I think you should learn how to communicate. Therapist is a stretch. You cannot dump your emotional garbage on your partner all the time. And some of you say, oh, emotional garbage, what do you mean? At some point, if you dump so much information, it becomes emotional garbage. It's for you to figure out what's the limit. But again, imagine if man would have a conversation with you every single day about his problems over and over again. That would start weighing on you as a woman. It would. That is not something that I stand for. I think if you feeling that you need to constantly talk about your emotions 24/7 or a lot, do you feel like off balance? That's not a good thing. It's not going to help your relationship, and it's not going to help your partner. There's a balance, like with everything else. No one expects a man to cry. This was an extreme example, Daphne. I don't say that man's going to automatically cry, but again, when I think of the word vulnerability, that means that everything has to be out and open, which means that if man feels so emotional about some of the experiences that he had in the past, then women should be ready for that man to be emotionally affected by talking about these experiences. And crying is a normal human reaction. People cry. So if you want vulnerable men to a full extent, then I would say it's not too unreasonable to allow men to cry and to be emotional in front of you. All right, let's move on because I think we can be stuck here forever. I knew I'll open a can of worms, but I don't know. I didn't get enough votes. There are only 3 people that wanted to see the video. Maybe I'll do it anyway, just because I need to get it off my chest. I feel like I did, but maybe I can do more. I need to find the right words to explain it. But I also don't think that people are going to automatically understand or agree with me, which is fine. I might as well just make that point without expecting people to agree with me. That's a beautiful thing about, you know, ability to agree to disagree. Let's see. All right, where were we? There was a trigger. All right, so let's just start over. When a man won't talk, Sandra and Larry had been married for 20 years. Sandra wanted a divorce and Larry wanted to make things work. She said, how can he say he wants to stay married? He doesn't love me. He doesn't feel anything. He walks away when I need him to talk. He's cold and heartless. For 20 years, he has withheld his feelings. I am not willing to forgive him. I will not stay in this marriage. I am too tired of trying to get him to open up and to share his feelings and be vulnerable. Sandra didn't know how she had contributed to their problems. She thought it was all her husband's fault. She thought she had done everything to promote intimacy, conversation, and communication, and he had resisted her for 20 years. 20 years he resisted her. After hearing about men and rubber bands in the seminar, she burst into tears of forgiveness for her husband. She realized that his problems was their problems. She recognized how she had contributed to their problem. She said, I remember in our first year of marriage, I would open up, talk about my feelings, and he would just walk away. I thought he didn't love me. After that happened a few times, I gave up. I was not willing to be hurt again. I did not know that at another time he would be able to listen to my feelings. I didn't give him a chance. I stopped being vulnerable. I wanted him to open up before I would. This is good. This is good because this is actually goes sort of in line with the point I made earlier. This From this example, this man walked away when his wife was sharing things with him. So that seemed rather rude, but emotional bandwidth, something that I mentioned a few moments ago. I'm sure that this man is not an unreasonable man, yet he chose to walk away in certain instances. What does it tell you? That tells you that everyone operates at certain levels. Once your cup is filled or overfilled emotionally, because remember, you have your own emotions as a man, from work, from your family, from your friends, from this relationship. There's a lot of stuff going on. If your cup is overfilled with your relationship emotions day after day after day, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to want to walk away. You're going to want to recharge and find yourself again, center yourself again. These things are real. I've had friends in the past who shared things with me that were depressed, that start dragging me down, and I had to cut them off from my life. This thing is real. We emotional creatures. We, we operate on feelings, emotions, and what's going on internally. So if you don't have a balance there, they can really affect you. And this is the prime example right here, how he was walking away because he needed to recharge and stretch his rubber band so he can come back later. 20 years, these people. Can you imagine? Like, we reading a book right now. 20 years of this torture. When I say torture, I don't blame man or woman. I'm just talking about relationship as a whole and not being able to connect. Because in this instance, is like in her mind, okay, he's walking away. What an ass. He doesn't care about me, as she said. In his mind is like, oh my God, I can't handle it anymore. I just need a little bit of time. She has been telling me all these things so much. I need my own space. We never think about those things. We only think from our perspective, from what we experiencing. But 20 years, like, maybe that is the underlying point. If we are unable to connect the dots in communication and in relationship, I don't know about you, I don't want even 1 year of this, let alone 20. That will shorten your lifespan 100%. If you don't believe that this is type of environment will shorten your lifespan, think again, because there's no way that you can go through this, family warfare, so to speak, in your house without just walking away unharmed. You're going to get wounded, mentally speaking. Jamie said, no, 20 years would be awful, but they must love each other a lot, still be in it too. They must. They must. But they imagine the level of hurt and a level of agony, emotional agony that you have to go through to deal with that for 20 years. Goodness gracious. Hello, George. Thank you for being here. Hopefully, you just joining. But if you are leaving, have a great day as well. All right, let's continue on. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Learning to support each other without having to change. Let's look at that. Learning to support each other without having to change. All the seminars, Sandra said, I have spent 20 years trying to get Larry to talk. I wanted him to open up and be vulnerable. I didn't realize that what I was missing was a man who would support me in being open and vulnerable. Oh, we're getting to the meat of it, ladies. Let me repeat this. I wanted him to open up and be vulnerable. I didn't realize that what I was missing was a man who would support me in being open and vulnerable. That is what I really needed. I have shared more intimate feelings with my husband this weekend than in 20 years. I feel so loved. This is what I have been missing. I thought he had to change. Now I know nothing is wrong with him or me. We just didn't know how to support each other. Sandra had always complained that Larry didn't talk. She had convinced herself that his silence made intimacy impossible. At the seminar, she learned to share her feelings without expressing or demanding Larry to reciprocate. Reciprocate. Instead of rejecting his silence, she learned to appreciate it. It made him a better listener. Larry learned the art of listening. He practiced listening without trying to fix her. It is much more effective to teach a man to listen than to open up and be vulnerable. As he learns to listen to someone he cares for and is appreciated in response, he gradually will open up and share more automatically. When a man feels appreciated for listening and he doesn't feel rejected for not sharing more, he will gradually begin to open up. When he feels as though he doesn't have to talk more, he naturally will. But first, he needs to feel accepted. If she is still frustrated by his silence, she is forgetting that men are from Mars. I feel like we need a moment to digest this. It seems to me that acceptance is the first step, which actually makes a lot of sense, and that your man will come along in time. If he feel accepted, he will eventually would want to share things with you. But you have to let him do this on his term. Now, if he's not listening to you, it's a whole different issue. Man would need to get to a point of maturity and understanding and support where he can give his woman opportunity to talk. In turn, women should not be criticizing her man, for inability to share at that very moment. Because sharing for him equals growing and equals not immediate trust, but it's a process, what I'm trying to say. It's a process that he has to grow into, and it does not happen overnight. Obstructing the intimacy cycle, punishing behaviors. That's what we're going to look at next. All right, so obstructing the intimacy cycle. There are two ways a woman may unknowingly obstruct her male partner's natural intimacy cycle. They are chasing him when he pulls away and punishing him for pulling away. So we already kind of look at chasing him a little bit. At least I think we touched on it indirectly. But I wanted to look at punishing him for pulling away. So punishing behaviors. First one is physical. When he begins to desire her again, she rejects him. She pushes away his physical affection. She may reject him sexually. She doesn't allow him to touch her or be close. She may hit him or break things in order to show her displeasure. When a man is punished for pulling away, he can become afraid of ever doing it again. This fear may prevent him from pulling away in the future. His natural cycle is then broken. It may also create an anger that blocks him from feeling his desire for intimacy. He may not come back when he has pulled away. Withholding sex and withholding intimacy of any sort in a relationship by a woman, this is a first sign of disaster. And I actually think that sometimes it happens because women legitimately feel um, as if their man doesn't care. They feel that by doing that, by punishing him, they will get their man to listen, to pay attention, and to, to change his behavior. But we're learning from this that this is not the best. This is a bad strategy to utilize. And I can tell you, I've been in a situation before. I've been in a situation to where, you know, my ex withdrawing intimacy, and it's a confusing thing to go through as a man. I mean, you just there, and you really questioning, like, well, what did I do? You know, you really kind of don't know how to fix it at the time. You just know that she's mad. Makes you feel helpless, and it makes you feel unwanted. You know. The second one, emotional. When he returns, she is unhappy and she blames him. She does not forgive him for neglecting her. There is nothing he can do to please her or make her happy. He feels incapable of fulfilling her and gives up. When he returns, she expresses her disapproval through words, tone of voice, and by looking at her partner in a certain wounded way. Yeah, that's another bad one. You just feel this energy in the air. You know what I'm talking about. You feel that there is, what's the word I'm looking for? Not just attitude. Like you've been looked at as enemy of the state. That's what you've been looked at. I'm trying to think of the word, but word just doesn't come to my mind right now. Animosity. That's the word. You've been looked at with animosity by your own woman. And that energy could be felt very, very pronouncedly, very obviously. And as a man, again, it's a tough situation to be in, is because, you know, you don't want to be the circumstance in your relationship. It feels as if you being, oh my gosh, how can I even explain it? It feels as if your woman hates you. That's what it really comes down to. It feels as if your woman is testing you, as she's not pleased, she is disappointed. It feels like she doesn't want you in her life. And then mental. When he returns, she refuses to open up and share her feelings. She becomes cold and resents him for not opening up and talking. She stops trusting that he really cares and pushes him by not giving him a chance to listen and be the good guy. When he happily returns to her, he's in the doghouse. When the man feels punished for pulling away, he can become afraid of losing her love if he pulls away. He begins to feel unworthy of her love if he pulls away. He may become afraid to reach out for her love again because he feels unworthy. He assumes he will be rejected. This fear of rejection prevents him from coming back from his journey into the cave. This is super important because if man feels that way, and if we get a feeling that we may not get the opportunity to be accepted, we're afraid of that rejection constantly. That's going to prevent us from even being in the situation. How many fights do you think you can get into to where your man actually walks away from an argument until your man will say, screw it, it's not even worth it? I would argue that that mental shift happens sooner rather than later. After a few of those, especially the really heated ones, really emotionally charged arguments, the man's emotional state will start changing, especially if there's like a disrespect involved, and nasty argument to where you're taking shots at each other. um, Feeling unworthy and feeling not good enough could really be a demise of a relationship, and men not going to want to come back into that. Let's see some comments. Oh man. You have clarity of vision, Yuri. I agree with you. It's about appreciating our differences and complementary, not becoming like each other. If you become like each other, if you're just molding yourself to become like your other person, you lose your sense of identity. But I would also argue that naturally you will become closer over years if you allow yourself to be yourself. If both of you are individuals, you are still, and you love each other and you work on your communication and, you know, on listening, on, being supportive of each other, I would say that you still growing closer together. If you're doing those things, you becoming more like one. But that process is a natural process that in my mind it takes years to achieve. It's not something that happens overnight. And when people start forcing the change, then that's actually pulling people apart. Olga said, oh my God, this is just what my husband says. I give him those looks sometimes, not even meaning for him to notice. Oh, believe me, he notices. Believe me, he notices 100%, Olga. Yeah, so she decides to be angry, then punish, and expects him to come forward. That has zero logic behind her expectations. Punishing behavioral cause disconnect. Yes, it 100%. My poor husband, I didn't realize how bad I am to him sometimes. I'm so evil. I'm glad I can see it now. Don't be too hard on yourself, Olga. We're all learning here. We're all learning. And listen, obviously, I'm reading you a book and inserts from the book that's written by a doctor who had a number of patients and years in practice. So, I think that you can take that information a little bit more closer to the truth. Take my information, what I'm saying, with a grain of salt, because I'm giving you a lot of my opinions as well. I'm not a doctor. I should have probably made a disclaimer. Everything you hear from me, take it with a grain of salt. This is just my opinions based on my experiences and based on what I'm learning right now. But this is by no means, you have to find your individual truth and what makes sense to you. At the end of the day, universe doesn't care what relationship you have, whether you have the best relationship or the most crazy relationship in the world. It's up to you to determine what it is and make sense out of it. And what makes it even harder is that two people must be able to commit to that in order for it to be a good relationship. Yes, word commit is the right word, because you can't be doing all these things and be intentional about all these different things that we're discussing without a commitment. There's a lot of work, people. Also, you are not his mom to dole out punishment. That's a let me keep it on the screen for a little bit. Thank you for saying that, Jamie. You are not his mom. I'm not talking about just to Olga. I'm talking about to everybody. Your woman is not your mother. Should never be. And she never will. And so, as a woman, if you're going to try to mother him, parent him, that is certainly going to push the man away faster from you. Now, look, there's different type of men. There are pushover out there who's going to take it. There's going to be men who will take it, but who might start disliking you or, God forbid, resent you. There are men out there who will never take it. They will live in a relationship before they allow that to happen. So not all men created equal. With some men, you'll be able to do it. But do you want a man who is going to be essentially a baby? I would argue not. But again, to each their own, as they say. Universe does not care at the end of the day what your relationship going to play out as. Wise men and women. Whew, we're going through it. We're going through it. This is fun. Wise men and women. Men generally don't realize how they're suddenly pulling away and then later returning affects women. With this new insight, how and about how women are affected by his intimacy cycle, a man can recognize the importance of sincerely listening when a woman speaks. He understands and respects her need to be reassured that he is intended in her and he does care. Let me read it again. He understands and respects her need to be reassured that he is intended in her and he does care. Whenever he is not needing to pull away, the wise man takes the time to initiate conversation by asking his female partner how she's feeling. He grows to understand his own cycles and reassures her when he pulls away that he will be back. He may say, I need some time to be alone, and then we will have some special time together with no distractions. Or if he starts to pull away while she is talking, he may say, I need some time to think about this, and then we can talk again. So the big point here, the man grows to understand his own cycles and reassures her when he pulls away that he will be back. This is important. This is important because simply communicating this can really go a long way, because you let your woman know that you need that time. Women not going to automatically know that. Men need to be able to communicate that. And then the second part of it is being able to reassure your woman that you will be back. This is just temporary, that you need some time for yourself right now. So that reassurance is a long way. So one, communicating that clearly. And then second is the reassuring part that goes behind that. Women are like waves. Women are like waves. A woman is like a wave. When she feels loved, her self esteem rises and falls in a wave motion. When she is feeling really good, she will reach a peak. But then suddenly, her mood may change and her wave crashes down. This crash is temporary. After she reaches bottom, suddenly, her mood will shift and she will again feel good about herself. Automatically, her wave begins to rise back again, to rise back up. When a woman's wave rises, she feels she has an abundance of love to give. But when it fails, she feels her inner emptiness and needs to be filled up with love. This time of bottoming out is a time for emotional house cleaning. If she has suppressed any negative feeling or denied herself in order to be more loving on the upswing of her wave, then on the downswing, she begins to experience these negative feelings and unfilled needs. During this downtime, she especially needs to talk about problems and be heard and understood. I want to pause here because, ladies, first of all, let me know in the comments if you agree with that. Do you feel like that you are experiencing these type of circumstances in your life? Like that's how you really feel, like upswing, you know, of feelings, and using this um, analogy as a wave coming down, feeling great, and then as it comes down, no, coming up, I mean, coming up, feeling great, and then as the wave comes down, you feel crushed. Let me know in the comments if that's if you feel that way, if it's accurate description of it. And I would say from my end, if it is, then it actually does make sense, because sometimes in the relationship you can feel like you just don't know why your partner feels emotionally down. If it seems like you've done everything you could, you've been a good boyfriend, um, but yet your partner is not happy, that would explain it, at least partially. That also is important for the fact that if we know that, if we are aware of that, that these, women are going through these stages, through these cycles, emotional cycles, then I think men can be better equipped with approaching conversations, with being a little bit more patient, and not looking inward, not blaming themselves sometimes for how, you know, our women feel. So continue on. My wife Bonnie says this experience of going down is like going down into a dark well. When a woman goes into her well, she is consciously sinking into her unconscious self, into darkness and diffused feeling. She may suddenly experience a host of unexplained emotions and vague feelings. She may feel hopeless, thinking she is all alone or unsupported, but soon after she reaches the bottom, if she feels loved and supported, she will automatically start to feel better. As suddenly as she may have crashed, she will automatically rise up and again radiate love in her relationship. Overarching point is a woman's self esteem rises and falls like a wave. When she hits bottom, it is a time for emotional house cleaning. A woman's ability to give and receive love in her relationship is generally a reflection of how she is feeling about herself. When she's not feeling as good about herself, she's unable to be as accepting and appreciative of her partner. At her downtimes, she tends to be overwhelmed or more emotionally reactive. When her wave hits bottom, she is more vulnerable and needs more love. It is critical that her partner understand what she needs at these times. Otherwise, he may make unreasonable demands. I would like to hear your thoughts, my friends. Your thoughts about this. I think it's accurate. I'm confused by suspecting that I might have some bipolar problems. It's nice to know that these are just normal female waves. Yes, women are water, emotion. Okay. Every man seems to have his own pattern when they pull away as far as time. It's usually consistent for that man. Like some are 2 days, some are a couple of hours. Men are one pointed. Think of energy waves versus a straight beam. That's not a bad. That's not a bad way to put it. We don't have these type of emotional peaks and valleys. I think collectively speaking, we don't as men. So I think it's very difficult for us to relate for that reason. I think it's accurate for me, anyways, maybe not for everyone. I never thought about my emotions like waves before, but then I realized I literally went through the past that the past week for all my friends to see, and you all supported and listened to me. Very cool. Thank you all for sharing. Recurring conversations and arguments. Let's look at that. Hold on. Let me put it. Recurring conversations and arguments. When a woman comes out of the well, she becomes her usual loving self again. This positive shift is generally misunderstood by men. A man typically thinks that whatever was bothering her is now completely healed or resolved. This is not the case. It is an illusion. Because she's suddenly more loving and positive, he mistakenly thinks all her issues are resolved. So let's stop right here. I want to hear from you. Do you agree with that? When you come out of, you know, when you come up on a high wave again, when you emotionally back to a better place, do you feel like the emotions, not the emotions, do you feel like the issues are still lingering? Do you think that it's still in the back of your mind? Give me a comment. When her wave crashes again, similarly issues will arise. When her issues come up again, he becomes impatient because he thinks they have already been resolved. Without understanding the wave, he finds it hard to validate and nurture her feelings while she is in the well. When a woman unresolved feelings recur, he may respond inappropriately by saying, "How many times do we have to go through this? I've heard all of this before. I thought we had established that. When are you going to get off of it? I don't want to deal with this again." I have said that before. This is crazy. This is crazy. We're having the same argument. Why do you have so many problems? Girl, you are full of problems. You're full of waves. Your waves are too high, and I can't even surf. Girl, I don't think I like water anymore. I don't think I like the ocean anymore. I'm joking about this, but the ultimate question, assuming these things are true, the ultimate question, how are we going to take care of our waves? I'm asking both genders. Obviously, using Daphne's analogy, men like a laser beam, sometimes laser beam can burn through things. So how are we going to operate our laser beam? And for ladies, how are you going to navigate your waves? Because waves can be peaceful and nice, or waves can crash and destroy. I should drop a mic at this point. I just speak poetry. Just so poetic. When a woman goes into her well, her deepest issues tend to surface. These issues may have to do with her real relationship, but usually they are heavily changed from her past relationship in childhood. We'll stop here because that's a lot of unpack there. Past relationship in childhood, that's a whole different conversation. Um, but let's look at some comments. Yes, I agree. Just because we recharge, if the problem isn't resolved, it comes back up. Mm. Female waves is like that Pink song, Go Away, Come Back. Mm. Yes, not resolved, and woman feels dismissed. Phew. This is great. This was great. I hope that you gather something from this talk. Um, there's just so much to unpack. The more I learn about it, the more it's like I feel like the more information opens up, right? It's just so interesting how these things work. And I do start realize that we are so, in some ways, in terms of how we approach emotions and how we approach communications, where we have distinct differences between genders, between men and women. And it's cool to learn about it. It's really interesting to me. It's really insightful. And I hope that it's been interesting and useful to you as well. Honestly, we need to let them know that we still have a problem when we are doing well, and tell them that it is important to us to figure it out. I think men try more when they are aware that is important to us. I would agree with that. It is not fair that men were born to be so straightforward, calm, and logical. I want to be like this in my head, but my emotions don't let me. Well, I think having the knowledge is that, I mean, that knowledge should help to approach the situation in a different way. Communication could be adjusted appropriately, right? So when you tell your man is that, hey, I am going through this stage right now, or I'm really right now, my emotions bothering me, in however you want to describe it. I guess if you want to use the same analogy of the wave and say that, my wave is really crashing down right now, I just need your support and nothing else. I really think it would help man to know that. So if you're comfortable as a woman to first recognize it, I mean, if you're able to recognize those things, that's the first thing. And then secondly, if you comfortable to communicate that to a man, I really think it will be helpful for men. I really do. um, from a man's perspective, I think we could do a better job asking, do you want us to listen or to solve, to offer solutions? um, we could do a better job of saying, right now I need to withdraw, but I will be back. I still care about you. I'm not walking away because I don't love you, but I need to walk away right now to become centered, or to simply spend time with myself. I'll be back, right? So there's just a couple of things there. I'm glad that you find it helpful, and this is great to discuss it with all of you as well. An acknowledged problem is a cancer cell in a relationship. An unacknowledged problem is a cancer cell in a relationship. That's a strong one. Well put, Becky. That part is on us. If we are aware we have ups and downs, we need to understand where we are emotionally and not just lash out. 100%. Then if we communicate and are rejected, then that is on them. The rubber band part is good to go back later. Great talk, everyone. Great talk. Let me just make a quick announcement, because I think this is actually all the slides that I've had. So this is also over 2 hour show today. It's good time to wrap it up, but I want to make an announcement before I go. So tomorrow I'm actually going to do a live show dedicated to International Women's Day. All right. So International Women's Day is on March 8th. March 8th will be working during the day, but tomorrow I'm going to go in. I know time difference. Actually, some community members will have March 8th, I believe. So, for example, we have a couple folks from New Zealand as part of the community. So they will already have March 8th tomorrow. So I think it will be a good time to just acknowledge um, all the ladies. And so I'm going to do that at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Don't plan to be live for super long. We'll see how it goes, but I'm thinking maybe between 20 to 30 minutes live. So it's going to be a shorter one, but I definitely want to invite you to join tomorrow. And that way we can just simply, you know, not just acknowledge, but also um, appreciate our women on that special day. All right. And then, other than that, since we talked about part two, would you like to see part three? Because this book is not over. Are you getting enough value to where you want to come back for part three? So, in the comments, if you're interested in continuing this conversation the following weekend, if you're getting valuable information that you able to apply in your own relationship, or at least consideration is appreciated, give me a hashtag part three. Again, if you enjoyed this conversation and want to continue learning about concepts from this book, be sure to give me hashtag part three in the comments. While we are doing that, I want to thank you for being here with me live. I thoroughly enjoy this conversation and interaction with every single one of you. I just want to thank you for the fact that you are not afraid to put your thoughts out there. Some of you sharing personal examples, some of you really sharing your honest opinions. I know it's not easy to do. I know it's always putting yourself out there. So I really want to thank you for that. That means a lot. And looks like we have some requests for part three. So let's do it next week, and then we're going to continue this conversation. If you have any feedback regarding the format of how it's being delivered, please let me know. You can just send me a message on Instagram or send me uh, email, russianprototype@gmail.com. So you can do that too, whichever way you prefer to give me that feedback. But I want to make sure I acknowledge everyone, or majority of you at least, that sticked around through the live show. Becky was in the house. Thank you for being here. Daphne, appreciate you. Jamie was in the house. Thank you so much for hanging out. Joanna was in the house. Thank you. Thank you. Olga was in the house and was a special guest. Thank you so much. Godi Gal, looks like you might have just joined, but hopefully you'll be able to come back tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Let's see. We've had more people in here. I need to scroll up. I think these ladies, Laundry Basket was here as well. So appreciate you. I know that Dia and Heather were here earlier, but didn't see their comments in this, at least in the second part of the stream. I know it was a long stream, so I think a lot of people came through and then probably had to go. But with that, I thank every single one of you who were here. Tomorrow, I'm going to see you 10 a.m. Eastern time for a special Women's Day, International Women's Day acknowledgement. All right. I wouldn't even call a live show, although It is. Yes, looks like Heather is still here. Heather was just in the background, probably just doing some awesome decorations and just listening. Um, appreciate every single one of you. I will be seeing you tomorrow at 10. I'm like, my mind is just going back and forth. Like, I want to talk about different things. Super enjoyed the conversation. It was so nice. Appreciate everyone's thoughts. I'll be seeing you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, hopefully. And if not, of course, you'll be able to see the recording of that acknowledgement. But I hope you have an amazing day, and peace.